grandfather Ambrose Finnegan's kitchen table was a place where you learned about life and you learned about what it meant to be Irish. And my grandpa used to say, what comes from the heart goes to the heart. And nothing comes from the heart like poetry. But I say, there's nothing that goes to the soul like Irish poetry.
Seamus Heaney once wrote that poems help us to live. Not only do they help us to enjoy life, but more importantly, they help us to endure it.
Poets are deep thinkers. They're never happy with the first word that goes down. They spend a lot more time at their work. There's a certain rhythm to it. I think that's one of the reasons why it's static in the mind once it gets in there.
Poetry's full of great one-liners because it's the perfect distillation of human life into the neatest, smallest formulation of words.
And maybe it's time for us to honour that and give back to make sure that poetry has a home.
For a country with such a reputation for poetry and literature, it's surprising that such a centre does not yet exist. So it's thrilling that this now seems set to happen.
Poetry Ireland Centre will be a contemporary performance space, the Seamus Heaney Working Poetry Library, a poetry cafe, a poetry garden, and a workshop space for all ages.
I think this is one of the profoundest, most exciting moments in Irish poetry. Traditional poetry now meets with the new poetries that are coming in with the new Irish. And this building will be part of the reclamation of the North Inner City as a vital cultural centre.
Working on a building like this is very exciting. It's one of the great protected Georgian buildings in the city and would have been at the centre of social and political life in Dublin in the 18th century. The idea is essentially to bring the building on to the 21st century. In a way, the door has to open and the building has to become something that people feel welcome to come into.
Number 11 Parnell Square is a precious building of historical, political and architectural significance that needs brought back to life. I believe that this heartbeat will be restored by the Poetry Ireland Centre for the benefit of both the city and the country.
One of the things that's going to be a terrific boon for the new centre will be the Seamus Heaney Working Poetry Library.
Seamus bought poetry books all the time. He read mostly poetry and people sent him a great many books. He worked in Oxford, he was a professor in Harvard, but all that time he chose to live in Ireland. He was committed to Ireland and I know he would be very pleased that his books stayed here.
You know, the Poetry Ireland Centre is a wonderful thing in the abstract. We have to make it concrete, and we'd love you to help us do that.
Playwrights have the Abbey Theatre, musicians have the National Concert Hall, painters have the National Gallery. So why shouldn't poetry have its home, its temple, if you like, somewhere which says we in Ireland think poetry is very important.